Often, when a horrible crime happens, for example, a double homicide, or maybe was a gang rape that happened and the victim died, and when there's a very terrible crime that happened, or it comes to the light that the man who they thought was a happy family man was really a raging wolf, a monster to his family. Anytime such a thing happens, you often hear people say, did he do that? Or did she do it? She was always a very kind and loving individual. Or if the victim died in a very horrible way, others tend to be shocked and think, we want to do something to her. She had no enemies. Everyone loved her. And it can be that the victim indeed was a cheerful young woman that was killed. It can be indeed that she didn't mean anyone harm. It can be indeed that she had a strong support group that wanted her well. Or if it's a he, it can be that he indeed minded his own business and never bothered anyone. So you would think, okay, he never bothers anyone else, so why would anyone want to do something that ugly to him? And I'm not saying that the people saying such things are insincere. What I'm telling you is, don't believe it. Let me say it one more time. Do not believe it. First of all, we live in a fallen world. A world where they reject Christ, the Prince of Peace. That's why there is no real peace on the earth. You have extended relief generated through blood sacrifice. That's what the world has. Peace they don't have because they reject the Prince of Peace. Now, that should be a reason alone, but okay, let me give more reasons. In this fallen world, people hold on to control. And that means that anything or anyone out of their control is either an enemy or something that's not innocent, something that doesn't matter. Worldly people in general have a tunnel vision. That's how they think. Based on this information, you should get by now that if someone, somewhere, or let me say, if anyone, anywhere in this world has a lot going for them, they will get people that become upset with them because things are going well for them. Why? Because if things are going well for them, that means they have options. That means they can have influence. And others cannot control this influence, nor the fact that they have options. And worldly people, as I mentioned before, in general, they have a tunnel vision. They're holding on. They want control. So when they can't control you, nor what comes from you, they tend to either ignore you, pretend as if you don't exist. That's their way of exercising control upon you. Or if that doesn't work, if they really can't ignore you, they'll become offended. Because now they need to, in their mind, need to put up. In their mind, they're the victim because they have to endure your influence. Even though you're not attacking them, you're not harming them, you're just being you. They don't care that you're not harming anyone. They have a will, and for some reason you have to find a way to deal with that will. But they, when it comes to your will, they do not have any obligations. This narcissistic attitude, common people, say world people, have it in general. So knowing this, you should understand by now that it doesn't exist that someone is murdered in a very horrible manner and nobody meant them any harm. It doesn't exist. First of all, it can't exist because they were murdered in a very horrible way. So someone did want to harm them. But people around the victim often think, well, who want to do this? They have a tunnel vision, and in their tunnel vision, this individual never meant anyone harm, so nobody should want to do anything bad to that individual. That's their tunnel vision, and they are wrong. There are people that wanted to harm the victim. There are people out there that just want to cause harm and damage just to relieve themselves. You have such folks. And such folks who don't go out and harm and kill and attack all the time. First of all, they can't do it because they need to sleep. That's their bodily need. They need to eat. Many need to work also in order to pay the rent, so they can't go out there, attack, and cause damage all the time. No, but when they have the chance and opportunity, they will do it. You have such people. And such people, they know that if they would openly act out their frustrations and their narcissistic attitude, folks would reject them and nobody would want to deal with them. And if nobody wants to deal with them, they can't have a job, they don't have an income, and they'll die on the streets of hunger. So they know they need to get along. They learn to get along. They learn to play the social game, to have a job, to have a spouse or a boyfriend or girlfriend in order to have social context. They do it. But such wolves in sheep's clothing, they are around. And Christ warned us for them. So when you watch a crime documentary, for example, in the beginning often let the relatives or the friends of the victim speak, they're often shocked. And I'm not saying they're lying. Well, some are, but in general, they're factual. They're open, they're shocked that this happens to their loved one or their friend. But don't believe it when they say that nobody would want to harm that individual. They often don't know any better, so they're speaking out of ignorance. But there are times they knew very well that something bad was coming to the individual, but they never thought it would really happen. So let me say that too. Often the environment sees harm coming far quicker than the individual to whom the harm is intended. Upon whom the harm is intended, I mean. Let me say it one more time, you need to get this. Often the environment, that means the people around, see the backlash way before the target, him or herself, notices that there's a backlash coming. And the environment often moves away, they walk away because they want to be left alone, they don't want to be involved. And that's how wolves in sheep's clothing, that's how predators can make their move easily. Because instead of the environment dealing with those that are generating negativity, they back off because they want to be left alone. They think it's none of our business. And when things go wrong, they want to act completely shocked as if they have no responsibility in allowing things to happen. Now, bad things can happen, okay? Even if you fight against this, there are times bad things just happen. It's out of your hand. You can't help it, the bad things happen. But as a community, you can take collective responsibility and restrain evil by anticipating evil, by overruling evil. And that is a responsibility that folks often forfeit in the world. So next time someone has been targeted, where someone has died or someone is still alive, do not believe it when people say that nobody would want to harm that individual. It can be true that it's very unlikely that anyone would want to harm that individual. But you have folks in this world, as mentioned before, you can call them narcissists, you can call them psychopaths, sociopaths, whatever you want to call them. They never want to face anything. They just want to release their frustrations and dump their negative waste energy somewhere and be left alone. And the victims have to shut up and put up with it, because else they get upset. And the whole community has to understand and emphasize with their reasons. You have such twisted people. And unless the community restrains them and enforces repercussions on them, such people would go out daily and cause harm. I mean it. If the societal repercussions, or if societal anticipation is not active, those malignant folks would go out there every day attacking and causing harm. Because they just want to dump their negative energy that comes from their wrong way of thinking. They don't want to examine themselves, so the only way for them to cope is to dump. And they would be dumping every day if it wasn't for people that anticipate. I'm not saying that the social checks in the world always work. They don't. But as a believer, you should anticipate evil in your environment. You overcome evil with good. You overrule evil with good. So you overcome it, you overrule it. That means you operate in the good, you operate in the quality. That's why you ought to be Christ-centered. And another thing, I said this in this video already, that when the environment knows that the backlash is coming, they often retreat because when we're left alone. That's treason. No. That's betrayal. Treason is when it happens towards a king, a lord, or authority figure, or towards a nation. It's betrayal because it happens between people. Well, this is betrayal. Or if it relates to something political, it can be treason. But anyway, worldly people tends to betray one another. I'm not saying that all of them will betray you, no, but in general, worldly people tend to betray you. Yes, they will. That's why in the world, you have all those oaths, all those rituals, if you want to get involved with something. You want to work at the corporation, they let you go through this horrible solicit process before you get a job. Why? Because they don't trust people that aren't traumatized by the initiation. Because if you are traumatized by initiation, you develop a traumatic bond to the corporation, and that makes it hard for you to leave a corporation. And that's how they trust you. Without that trauma bond, you may decide one day, I don't want to work here anymore, and they just have to put up with it. What if all the employees would do that, they have no business anymore. That's why they rely on witchcraft for their corporation to work. That's why when folks marry in the world, they go through marriage vows, they go through those rituals. Why? Because those rituals bind you mentally to the community and the individual you're marrying, to make it hard for you to treat your spouse in a wrong manner. Because in the world it often happens that one spouse abuses the other. Just go to any video, talk about surviving narcissistic abuse. Look at the comment section. I dare to say that at least more than 60% of the comments are from people that barely escaped at the hands of a narcissistic spouse. And when you look at murders in the world, I'm going to say homicide, the number one individual always suspected is the spouse or the sexual partner of the victim. Why? Because worldly people, when they're completely frustrated and they have no way to relieve themselves, they tend to escalate. It's not just narcissists that escalate. Worldly people in general tend to escalate when they have nothing left to lose. And the one who often gets the heat is the one that's close to the individual, in this case the spouse or the sexual partner. So don't believe it when people say nobody would want to harm him or her. Throughout the centuries, pagans committed child sacrifice. Who in the right mind would want to harm a baby? A baby who can't harm you, a baby is completely helpless. Yet they did it throughout history for religious reasons, for paranormal reasons. Okay, that's it for this video. Keep agreeing with Christ. Remain alert. Be at peace.